Apart from walking upright and being able to cook our food, another great achievement of humankind has been the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to another. This ability of us has enabled us to share ideas and creativity to build or invent something out of the existing knowledge we have. 20,000 years back, this was the knowledge of hunting, the ability of making stone tools to bring down giant games. 2,000 years back, it was the knowledge of farming, the art of growing large quantities of grains and edibles for the sake of consumption or trade. 200 years ago, the knowledge of manufacturing and using machinery led to the mass production of goods and changed our history forever. But today, we are facing a huge problem when it comes to passing on knowledge. For the first time in human history, our technology is growing faster than our ability to adapt to changes. In fact, we have reached a time where the pupils are better equipped at handling the current technologies better than their teachers. So in a world like this, is it fair of us to train a whole new generation of young minds using 200-year-old techniques? Does it help to train them using methods that are meant for mass manufacturing? If the answer is no, then how can we transform education? What is the future of learning? Well, let me start off by saying that in the current education system, learning has nothing, or rather very little, to do with education itself. A system that was meant to impart knowledge into young minds has now become a system of grading kids based on their ability to become good employees. And so, to understand how the education system will look in the future, we need to understand the problems faced by the current system. There are many reasons our education system is failing, but I believe there are four main reasons for us to have ended up in this situation. The first problem are the subjects. Second is the outdated methods of teaching and valuation. Third reason is the lack of innovation. And finally, cost. The first problem in the current system of education are the subjects, and I do believe it is the most important of all the four problems in the video. Take a minute and remember all the subjects you were taught in school. Now, how much of this knowledge are you using every day? How many of you are solving quadratic equations on a daily basis? Maybe if you're a mathematics teacher or an engineer, you solve equations regularly. But what about the majority of us? Now, let me ask you a different question. How many of you pay taxes monthly and yearly? How many of you have or had debt or loans of some kind? My point is that our education system equips students to solve complex mathematical equations and educates them about chemical bonds, but it doesn't teach them about money and how to handle finances, which I believe is relevant to most of us. And it's not just financial education. What about developing life skills? Skills like leadership, communication, mental health, social and professional values, home maintenance, and even cooking. And what makes some subjects more important than others, when we don't even know how the world is going to evolve in the coming decades? Now, I'm not saying that other subjects aren't important. They help a student discover his or her interests. But introducing relevant subjects will also make them more responsible and improve their critical thinking. Teaching saving and investing is as important as, if not more important, than teaching integration and differentiation. Now, coming to outdated methods of teaching and valuation. This is probably the most obvious reason in our education system. We all remember our own school days when teachers were the center of attention in a class, and the whole class revolved around them. This approach is very teacher-centric, and because the communication is one-sided, there is very little room for mistakes. Also, in a system where failing a subject is considered the biggest humiliation, there is very little room to explore creativity and learn. I mean, do you think our ancestors would have been prolific hunters and farming innovators if all they had was lectures on hunting and farming? No. They probably would have made hundreds of mistakes before being successful. They were not taught, but instead, they were guided by their teachers. A teacher is supposed to guide a student, not instruct them. A teacher should inspire curiosity by asking questions. They shouldn't answer the questions a student didn't have in the first place. Learning should inspire creativity, not crush it. So what could be the solution to this? Well, we can make our classrooms less teacher-centric and bring more attention to the students. Make learning more voluntary and less compulsory. We also shouldn't condone failure. After all, isn't failure the stepping stone to success? The problem of lack of innovation in education is somewhat intertwined with the problem of outdated methods of teaching. But this problem is so unique that I had to mention it separately. Now, we know that the internet has revolutionized the world. It has impacted us from the way we communicate to the way we buy. The internet has also changed how we consume information. In a way, it has become the most important tool humanity has created. And ironically, most schools restrict the use of this tool in classrooms. For the most part, there's a good reason for this. Social media is distracting, and kids are prone to using them in classrooms. But what if schools started using the internet as a tool for interactive learning? Internet has more resources than any single book, and it is easily accessible. Moreover, students are actually better at using technology than teachers are. So instead of telling a whole generation that the internet is a bad thing, our education system should teach them the methods of solving problems using the internet. It would also show how amazing of a tool the internet is and expose them to a vast pool of resources. Now coming to the final and the most unfair problem of the four, cost of education. India produces around 1 million engineers every year. And according to an article published in Financial Times, the average fees for an engineering course is little over 63,000 rupees. And the per capita income of India is 10,500 rupees. And I need not even mention the US student debt crisis. Over 40 million American students have college debts, and collectively, this amounts to around 1.6 trillion US dollars, bigger than the overall GDP of most countries. This fact is even more ironic because both these countries are two of the most important democracies. The former is the world's largest democracy and the latter is the world's most powerful. But unfortunately, education is anything but democratic in these two countries. The only way out of this is to make education accessible to all, make it more affordable to all the youths from all sections of society. This can only be achieved if the right to education is given the same importance as other fundamental rights, such as right to freedom. While the internet is acting as a catalyst to this, more should be done by people and the system as a whole. Humankind currently is undergoing a revolution, the likes of which we have never witnessed before. The jobs that employ thousands or even millions of people today might not even exist in the coming decades. And we are living in an age where trained professionals are undergoing trainings and workshops to update themselves professionally to make themselves relevant in an ever-changing world. And so we need to realize that in such a world, education should also transform. It should prepare students for the future, not the present. Moreover, the problem of changing the education system is not an easy one to solve. Even if we decide to replace the current system, what are we going to replace it with? There are no other universally accepted systems, or not yet. And so I believe that the transformation of the current form of education to a new form is going to be gradual but not effortless. Now, it's really difficult to predict what schools will look like in the future. It all depends on the course our technological revolution will take. But if instruction is not replaced with curiosity, if tutoring is not replaced by creativity, if education continues on the same path and fails to transform, then we'll be failing a whole generation of learners. Hey guys, hope you're all safe. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this content helped you in any way, please do share it with people who can benefit from this. And do consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon if you don't want to miss my upcoming videos. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.